نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear sisters. How are you all doing, if I may ask? So, starting the session with this dua that Rabbi shrah li sadri, which is, the dua of Prophet Moses. It is mentioned in the Quran as well that he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Rabbi shrah li sadri, my Lord, expand for me my chest. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي, make my task easy for me. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِّسَانِي, and untie the knot from my tongue. يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, so they may understand my speech. And another dua of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which is رَبَّنَا زِدْنَا عِلْمًا, our Lord increases all in knowledge. So with these du'as, we are going to start our today's session, inshallah. So before this session, if there is any sister who would like to, give a recap or anything they would like to share from the previous session, they're welcome for that. And then, I'll give the recap on my own as well. So any sister, any volunteer here? We did these, we did the individual letters of Arabic, which were, these 5. We covered these 5 letters. Any sister would like to just say their names out loud? What I can just say for this letter is that the sound of this letter is similar to the S of English. Okay, it is similar to the S, but it is not exactly the same. Why? Because the S sound of English, this has a whistle in it, right? We say S. You can hear the whistle at the end. S. But what happens with this tha is that there isn't any whistle in it. Okay, so how we avoid that whistle is that we take the tip of our tongue and we touch that to the tip of our upper teeth, right? The edges of our upper front 2 teeth. And our tongue is a bit out as well. When we touch the tip of the tongue, it comes out of our upper teeth as well a bit. And we say sa, sa, right? I'm not saying sa, sa. I'm not making a whistle. I'm avoiding the whistle. And so that is how we say this letter sa. And I gave the example of this word as well when we say think, right? We are not making the whistle at the start of th sound. So you can say that is a bit similar to the sa sound. This letter sa sound. Okay. Another thing, sisters, I would just like to, mention from the recap of the previous lesson is that, I couldn't just, I think it was my fault that I was unable to explain it properly. So I would just clear this out for today, inshallah, which is that a sister asked a question. Okay, let me just create a space here to write. Okay, okay, which is about these 2 letters, right? We did the 5, but these 2 ones, which is this Aleph, and then which is Hamza. So I'm not sure what was the name of the sister, but again, I'm hope that she's here in this today's session. So the sister asked me that we did the harakas, right? The haraka, which is a fatha symbol, which is a kasra symbol, and then we have a dhamma symbol, the 3 basic haraka symbols, or we can say the vowel, short vowel sounds in Arabic that we have, right? She asked me that, are these harakas, we place them on every single letter of Arabic, right? She asked me this question, and I said that yes, exactly. We place them on every single alphabet, right? Because I mentioned this point considering my sisters who are beginner here in this session. So, sister, what happens is that what I would just like to clear again in this session for today is that yes, we have these harakas, which is the symbol of fatha, kasra, dhamma. We can place this symbol on all the 29 alphabets of Arabic, right? We can make a generalized statement here. But again, when we go into the complexities or the details of tajweed, then we kind of try to differentiate the letters with each other a bit more as well. Okay, and that is how when we try to create the difference between these 2 letters as well. The first one is alif, and the second one is hamza. I told all of the sisters that you are supposed to remember for now, right? For now, you're supposed to remember that these two alphabets, they have a similar sound to the English alphabet A, right? The A sound. They both have this similar sound. And this is, all the beginners are told that these two alphabets, they are kind of same because their sound is same. So they tell them that these two alphabets are same. But sisters, there are differences between these two alphabets as well. Yes, we can say they make a sound like A alphabet, a sound. Okay, but what happens is that there are differences between these two alphabets as well. So, for those sisters who just don't want to go into the complexities for now, what they can do, we can remember this point. Okay, that's good. But for those sisters who are interested in going into the details and they can, they pick the things well, right? They are good in this thing. I'm just going to tell a few points for them and other sisters that they can just put, hands on their ears. Okay, they can just totally ignore this point. I just don't want to confuse anybody, and I really want to tell the things correctly as well for that purpose. Okay, so sisters, I'm going to just highlight a few points, the differences between these two letters that you see in front of you. Okay, so this is letter Aleph, sisters, and this is letter Hamza. The first difference in between these two letters is that although they make a sound of a, this Aleph comes from a different portion of mouth, and this Hamza comes from a different portion of mouth. From rather, you can say this comes from our throat. Okay, where's my pen? I cannot see it. Okay, here it is. Okay, so Aleph is articulated from the space in our mouth. We just say this comes from that portion, and Hamza, it is articulated from a portion of our throat. I'm just going to quickly write these points for interested sisters. The first point is the difference in the articulation. If we go into the details, the second point I would like to make is that, let me change the color. The second point I would just like to say is that Aleph does not carry any symbol on top of it. We cannot write this Aleph like this or this or this, okay? Again, I'm saying you might see it written in certain, books for beginners because they don't want beginners to get confused, okay? So you might see it written somewhere like this, but again, I'm just saying you will not find any symbol on Aleph, like this symbol or this symbol, you will not find it. Aleph is just, like this. It has no symbol on top of it. Whereas, Hamza has symbols. And Hamza, it is written in so many shapes and forms in Quran as well. Okay, let me write how you will see Hamza, how you'll find Hamza in the Quran. Hamza can be written like this. It can be written like this. It can be written like this. And it can be written like this as well. You will find it written like this and also like this. Okay, so these are all the details. You can just ignore these. I'm just telling you. So you will find the symbol of kasra, or fatha written on it, or you will find it written like on dhamma, like this as well. So all of these will be hamzas. You will not say, okay, this looks like alif, right? This might look like Aleph, but this is actually Hamza when we go into the details. So all of these are Hamzas, and this is Aleph, which does not have anything on top of it. Okay, so this is another difference. Okay, another difference I am going to tell you is that the Aleph, it does not come at the start of words, right? It can come in the middle. For example, let me write a word here. This is this word. Here we have Aleph here in the middle. Okay, the straight line. Aleph comes in the middle or it can come at the end. For example, we say this word. Can come at the end as well. Aleph can come in the middle. Aleph can come at the end as well. Whereas Hamza, it can come at the start or in the middle or at the end as well. Right? It can come in all of the three positions. But Aleph comes in the middle or at the end. This is another difference, right? So what I said just now, just you can listen to it very carefully, sisters. I said that Aleph will not come at the start, and also Aleph does not have any symbol as well. Okay, so when Aleph comes in the middle or Aleph comes at the end, it means that there is going to be something before alif. What alif does in actuality? What alif does in actuality is that it elongates the sound, right? The sound of the letter that comes before alif. Because alif cannot come at the start, so obviously there is going to be something before alif. And what alif does is it just elongates the sound of the letter that comes before it. Okay, is this clear? Any sister would like to say something? Is this clear what I've said? Great. So I have said that alif will not come at the start. Okay, I'm very sorry. I said that alif does not come at the start. It can come in the middle or at the end. So it means that there is supposed to be something before alif. So what alif does is it prolongs the sound of that letter. For example, in this word, alif Aleph is after the some letter. The sound of this letter is kaf. This is ka letter, and then alif is attached to it. This kaf letter. So what alif is doing? We say ka, a prolonged voice of ka. So alif is just elongated and it is making a sound at the end, right? So the a sound that we actually hear in alif is a prolonged sound of some other letter. But for Hamza, it has its own sound. When we say this word here, anna, at the start, I have said this is Hamza. So we say a sound, anna. That is actually the sound of Hamza. So this is the difference. That Alif is a letter of elongation, that it elongates the sound of the letter that comes before it, and then it makes a sound. Whereas Hamza, it comes at the start as well, in the middle and at the end. And when it makes a sound, which is a proper sound of its own, that is the a sound, a sound. But that a sound of alif is just an elongation of the previous letter's sound. Okay, I just don't want to, go into further details. That is just what I would like to say for now between the difference of these two. Okay, so what we know for now is that, sisters, you can say that, okay, both of these have a sound, right? But first letter, it will not have any symbol of fatha, kasra, dhamma. The second letter will have all of these symbols like this. Hamza can be written like this with a fatha, then with a kasra, we can have a dhamma on top of it like this. Okay, okay, so this is the difference between these two letters. Okay, sisters. So I think we should be moving, onwards with our today's session. Sisters, what we did, yes, in the previous lesson is that, we talked about the dots of Arabic as well, that Arabic letters, they might have dots, one dot, two dot, three dot, like, right? They can have up to three dots. And also we discussed that they are written from left to from right to left. Arabic is written from right to left, and also we discussed that in Arabic, it is not only the letter that has that we articulate, but letter has also certain symbols on top of it written, right? Not only the letter, but letter plus the symbol that is there, they combine and then we articulate those two together. So this was what we discussed, and what else we discussed? Let me just see. Okay, we I told you about the names and the sound of the letter, that how they are sometimes different, just like English, right? The name and the sound can be a little different. And yes, we did these harakas, these three basic symbols. And for today's sisters, we are going to move on to our today's lesson, inshallah. Shall we move on, or is there any query of any sister? Okay, I think there isn't any query. Let's move onwards. Okay. So sisters, again, you see in front of you all of the, charts of the alphabets, and these two are the same ones. So we have 29 alphabets of Arabic. We covered the 5 alphabets, right? I have, just marked these, right? I have just crossed these. You can say this line here on the first letter, which is Alif, right? A sound, I can say it for now. Then we have letter, Ba here, right? Just like B of English, ba. Then we have letter ta here, ta. I said that this is not similar to the T of English, right? This has a different sound to it. Let me just see Somebody's mic is open. Okay, so I said that the ta letter, this is not, similar to the T of English. This is a little different. How do we articulate ta? Is that we take the tip of our tongue and we touch that to the area behind our upper teeth, front two teeth, and we say ta, ta. And then we have next alphabet, which is ta. I just told you, ta. Tip of the tongue, it touches the edges or tip of our upper front two teeth, and we make kind of S sound, but without whistle in it. Ta. Okay, for today, we are going to be, covering these five alphabets. I have already encircled these, right? This one, and, these five as well. We are not moving, line-wise, you can say. I'm just taking alphabets of my choice, and then we cover those. And there is a reason for that as well, okay? We will be doing these five alphabets. Let me quickly say them. The first one being ha. The second one will be ha. The third one will be ain. The fourth one will be ghain. And the last one for today will be ha. Okay, so let's move onward. Okay, so sisters, what happens in Arabic is another thing that you need to kind of remember is that we kind of pair alphabets together as well, right? We know that we have 29 alphabets. What happens from those 29? We can say that, okay, six letters fall into one category and then three letters, they fall into another category. We just kind of make this division on the basis of, their articulation points, you can say, or their qualities. Okay, so we have articulation point. For example, we have six letters who have a similar article, who comes from a same portion of our mouth or same position, then we name that category as well. This is what we do with Arabic. So same is the case happening here, sister. For today, I am going to tell you the six letters of throat of Arabic, right? Six letters of throat, which are called huruf halki as well, right? Huruf means letters and halki means throat. So these are six letters of throat. Why? Because all of these six letters, they are articulated from our throat. What are those six letters of throat, sisters? All of these are written here, right? This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? All of these are six letters of throat. We have already, discussed one letter from these six, which is Hamza. Okay, Hamza we have already discussed in the previous lesson. So that too is a letter of throat. Okay, so what we do is that we have a throat, right? And we make a division of like three portions. This is the lower portion of our throat. This is the middle portion, and this is the upper portion of our throat that is near to our mouth. Okay, the lower portion of the throat is our, which is the portion near to our chest. Then we have a middle portion, and then we have an upper portion which is near to our mouth. So the two letters that come from the lower portion are ha letter and hamza letter. Okay, ha letter and hamza letter, they come from the lower portion of the throat. The next two that we will do today, they come from the middle portion, which is ha and ain. And then we have two alphabets which come from the upper portion of our throat, which are ha and ghain. Okay, so for now, is this clear? Any sister would like to just repeat what I just said? You just don't have to worry about the names of the alphabet, sister. It's okay. You just tell me, is it clear that we have six letters of throat, and then we have divided them further into three portions, one being the lower portion, then we have a middle portion of the throat, and then we have an upper portion of the throat. Okay, let me just say this. So we have already covered Hamza, which comes from the lower portion of the throat. So we have remaining five alphabets that we will cover today. Okay, all of their articulation point are from the throat. Okay, so let's move onwards with today's session. Let's write all of these alphabets first of all, sisters. The first letter is ha letter. See how I'm writing it, okay? Just see the arrows and the way I'm moving my pen. It's like this. And this letter, this is written like this as well. They're both ways. You will see it written, okay? This like this as well. So they both are ha letter. Ha. So we see that this ha comes from the lower portion of the throat, just like we saw hamza. Okay, then we are supposed to write ain letter like this. Then the next letter we will do is ha, like this. Then we have a ghain letter which is similar to ain but it has a dot on its head. Then we have kha letter. It again has a dot on its head. Okay, so these will be the 5 letters and just moving onwards. Okay, so sisters, just like the previous lesson, I gave reference to the English alphabet as well, right? From the previous lesson, the 2 new letters were the ta letter and sa letter, and the others we were already familiar with those in English, right? The A, B, and all these things. So for today, we are only familiar with one letter here today, right? The ha letter. It has a sound which is just like the sound of H letter in English. Okay, H sound. So we are already familiar with the first letter of today. The next 4 alphabet sisters, they don't have any similar sound in English for those. Okay, all of the next 4 letters, they don't have a sound in English. Okay, so you have to listen to their sound carefully for today. Okay. So, sister, this first letter of today, which is ha, I just mentioned that this is similar to the H of English, just like we say head in English, or we say horse, right? We say horse in English, or we say head in English. That is just like that. Okay, so from which portion we articulated, sister? It is from the lower portion of our throat, which is near to our chest. So we will make a heavy sound which is clear because this is coming from the portion of the throat that is near to our chest. So that sound will be very heavy and very clear. You should hear to the sound I'm making. Ha, ha. Okay, let's see the example from Arabic as well. This word here, right? The first letter here is this ha letter with a fatha. So we say hadi, hadi. Right? I hope you can listen to the ha sound I'm making. Hadi. The next sound is this letter, which is ain letter. Okay? Ain letter. What I have written is that, sister, in this transliteration of this letter, the name I've written here, I've mentioned the starting A, Ain. But this is not exactly the sound I'm making of A, okay? The sound I am saying is coming from the middle portion of my throat. How I am making Ain, Ain, how I am articulating this is, sisters, I've written here, this is like a kind of choking sound, right? Choking sound I'm making. How I'm making is that, sister, I just try to constrict the muscles of my throat, right? How do I do this? You can say that I push my tongue backwards, right? I try to push the tongue backwards, like I open my mouth for it, right? I say ah first, and then I kind of choke the sound. How do I choke is that I constrict the muscles of my throat. They get tighten a bit, and I say ah, ah, right? This is not the A sound of English. Remember this. I'm not making the Hamza sound here. This is different than Hamza, okay? I'm not making the sound of Hamza. Hamza, it was articulated from the lower portion of the throat, just like the ha here. What I'm doing for ah is I'm going a bit, up in the throat, middle portion, and making ah, ah. So we have a name of this letter, Ain, Ain. Okay, any sister would like to try this? It can be a bit tricky, but you can go ahead. We don't have any, alternative example from the English. So the example here is of word amala, amala. Okay, amala. At the start, we have this letter with a fatha symbol on top of it. So we say a, amala. Or we can say, like this, a'mal, a'mal. So we say it like this. So you are supposed to all practice this ayn letter, okay? Amala. The first one, was Hamza, which made a sound of a. But this makes a sound of a and a. Okay, I hope you can hear the difference as well. Okay, so let's move on to the third letter for today, sisters. That again is, from the middle portion of the throat. Why? Because I've already mentioned that the two letter come from the lower portion, and now we have two letter that comes from the middle portion of the throat. Okay, so sisters, we were talking about the next letter, which is ha letter. I'll try to make it simple this time, okay? It might be a bit easier than the ain letter, right? The choking sound again is a little difficult, right? It can be a difficult sound because normally we just don't go on choking around, right? That is not a natural sound to us, so that can be a little tricky for us. But again, sisters, for this ha letter, that comes from the middle portion. But what we do with ha letter, sisters? Okay, just let me give you an example that, in childhood or even, we can do this even now as well, that in winters, what we do is that we can do this on a mirror or on windows. We try to, push the air from our throat, right? We try to blow the air and, to kind of accumulate the fog on the mirror so that we can write on it, right? I hope you are able to understand. In winters, what we do in the mirror sometimes is that we say this like, ha. Can you hear the sound? Ha sound. We try to blow the air on the mirror, right? So the process or the way you do that, right? The has. So what you do is that you are, making the sound similar to this alphabet of ha here. So you are just supposed to do that natural, thing that you already do, right? So this letter has ha, airy, hollow sound at the start, which is similar to that process when we say ha, ha, right? So at the end, what we do, we make a ha sound, which is the airy sound, and then we attach the a sound at the end. So that is how this letter sounds. Let's hear me one more time. Ha, ha. First, there is air that I am pushing, right, from the middle portion of the throat. First come air, then come this sound. So we say ha. But for the first letter of today, this is ha letter here. That letter had a sound of H letter of English, the ha sound. There wasn't any airy sound in it. Rather, it was, more of a clear, heavy sound from the portion near to the chest. That was the H heavy sound at the start, right? But here we have a airy sound at the start. This is the difference between these two, right? Their articulation point is different, and so is the case with their sound as well. The first sound is a bit more clear, heavy sound when we say hadi or head or horse. But this one here is ha. Let's see the example from Arabic, which is Ahmad. We have a word here, Ahmad. You can hear the sound I'm making of ha here. Ahmad. Or when I say hamd, hamd. Okay, so any sister would like to try the sound of this letter here? Ha. Any sister would like to say this letter here? Okay, so sisters, the first one was ha. Ha. The second one was ayn. Amala. Right? Ayn. The third one is ha. Ha. Okay, so the fourth alphabet for today, sister, this comes from the upper portion of our throat, right? Both of these two now that we will do will come from the upper portion of our throat. So the way, this ayn is written, this ayn is written in the same manner with a dot on top of it. Okay, you are supposed to see the differences very clearly. Okay, you're not supposed to confuse the sound just because of the dots. So from the very initial step that you are in right now, you are supposed to remember the way they are written as well. Okay, so Ghain letter is written like this with a dot on its head. Okay, so again, sisters, even though this, there isn't any alternative of this letter in English, but again, this is a natural sound that this letter makes, just like the ha letter. Okay, so how the sound is natural, we all are, familiar with the gargle sound already, right? How do you do this gargling? You make this raw sound, right? I hope that's not awkward. So we make this raw sound. You take the water in and then you make this gargling sound, right? So right from that point, that is actually the upper portion of our throat, right? Our upper portion of the throat that is near to our mouth, right? So we make this letter from there. So how do we say this is ghoin? At the start, you hear this gargle sound, right? Ghaw, ghaw. And you say this name like ghoin, right? So ghoin. Let's take an example, which is this one here. Ghafir, ghafir. Okay, ghafir. I hope this is clear. So you make a very prominent sound of gargling, right? Gha, ghafir. Okay. So this is the fourth letter for today, which looks like Ain, but it has a dot on top of it, and also the sound is different than Ain as well. Ha, Ain, Ha, Ghain, and the fifth one for today is this letter Ha. Okay, so this looks similar to the Ha letter, but again it has a dot on top of it. And what happens, sister, is that again it comes from the same portion from where we say the Ghain letter, but this letter has a scratch in it. Ha, right? The sound of this letter is not like the K of English. Okay, what you do is additionally you add scratch. Ha. This is ka, right? If this was English word, we would have made a sound like ka, ka. But this is not the same sound, okay? This is ha. Paw, KH with a scratch, paw. Okay, so you are supposed to make that scratching sound or the sound of abrasion in that. Okay, so this is kha letter. Let's take an example, which is kharaja. Kharaja. Okay, so the first letter was ha letter. Ha. The way we said hadi. The second letter was I'm sorry, where did the screen go? Okay, so the second letter was Ain letter, and we said Amala, Amala. The third letter was Ha with airy hollow sound, Ha. Like we said, Ahmad. The fourth letter for today is Ghain with a gargle sound, and we say Ghafir, Ghain. The fifth being ha letter, which has this scratch or this abrasion in it, and we say ha, kharaja. Okay, so these are the 5 letters for today, sisters. And yes, sisters, all of these letters will have, symbols of fatha, dhamma, or kasra. For example, we have a ha letter. We can write this ha like this. Yes, we can write it like this as well. And we can write it with the dhamma symbol as well. So we can say ha, khi, khu. Yes, we can make these 3 sounds from it. Same is the case with the ghain letter. We will say gha, ghi, and ghu. Just right, we can do the same procedure with the ha letter as well. Ha, he, and who. Okay, and we can say a, I, and u, and we can say ha, he, and who. Okay, so this ha is written like this as well. Okay, ha, he, who. Okay, so this is what we have learned so far, sisters. Is there any query, any question any sister would like to ask, or any sister would like to volunteer for saying the names of these 5 letters of today as well? what is your homework, sisters, is that you can try, writing these letters. The first point of the homework, right? You are supposed to write these letters, and you are supposed to take a picture and send me, inshallah. The second thing is that you are supposed to, just do a little voice note, right, for just a minute or so, in which you are supposed to articulate the names of these five letters. Or any sister who wants more practice, they can, even send me the sounds of these letters with examples as well. Okay, I just don't want to put any burden, but that would just take you like 5 minutes of your day to send me the homework. Okay, so I expect that inshallah you will be giving me this homework, and I'll inshallah provide you the feedback as well.